Welcome to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals, experience, and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. We believe all investments have merit, and all investments have relevance, and all investments have their time and place depending on you, your objectives, and your goals. My name is Seth Krussman, and I'm joined here once again with John Ryder and Ben Brayshaw, and we're all planners and partners with Brayshaw Financial Group. How are you guys today?
Doing great, Seth. So
I'm pretty excited about today's topic.
This is a neat topic, I think, and I think it's going to be very timely for a lot of people that are in our listening audience. So
we're glad you're listening to Money on Tap, and if you are looking to sit down with an advisor and start making some of the right steps towards your financial goals, we welcome the opportunity to do that with you, and you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook at Money on Tap and our website at yourmoneyontap.com, where you can go and hand pick your own show that you want to listen to, not just this one. Like, we've got a lot of material back there and a lot of things that we've, series that we've unfolded, trying to get to some of the core principles that apply in financial planning, in financial literacy, and really finding a way for you to get where you want to go. And wherever you are in your experience, wherever you are on your trajectory, that's what we're here to help support. And so we've got a lot of great material on our website, again, at yourmoneyontap.com, that you can go ahead and find us at or like us on Facebook. And you're right, we got some great information today, John. Want to take it away?
You know, we're going to highlight a study that was done by a company called Bright House Financial, and the name of the study is entitled Shedding New Light on Retirement Planning, a series that examines how pre-retirees and retirees are paving the way for the road that lies ahead. Now, this is really an interesting topic because it really goes through, it's really a survey, right?
Yeah, well, it's detailing a ton of information that the Wall Street Journal had gathered data-wise. It's almost some sort of joint venture that they had, and it's it just really has a great conversational piece that, when we found this article, it's just got a couple different funny things, but it is so relevant to the things that people talk to us, depending on the person who walks through the door. But almost every one of them is a conversation, and there's a lot of legitimacy to it.
I think all of us would agree, as we were reading through this survey, we were looking at it, and we were seeing a lot of things that really mirrored how our clients feel about retirement, about financial planning, maybe about their feelings of retirement, how well they've done in preparing for retirement, or maybe in how well they haven't done as far as planning for retirement. But what it does is it looks at two focus groups. There's a survey of 529 pre-retirees. So these are folks between ages 50 and 64, and retirees that are age 65 plus. So it was conducted by the Wall Street Journal, and it was done between April and May of 2017. So the data really reveals some very interesting attitudes, actions, and spending habits of pre-retirees and retirees, how they plan, what they envision for the future, and really how and when their priorities shift, which really brings us to kind of the first chapter here. It's talking about shifting out of neutral. Now, Ben and I have something very much in common in the sense that...
I don't know about that, John. I don't know. I'm struggling to find a...
I know you don't like to identify with me, Ben, being several years your senior, but I will say we both have daughters that are training for their driver's licenses or have already gotten their driver's license. Now, the name of the title is called Shifting Out of Neutral. Now, all I can say is this, Ben. If you had to teach your daughter how to drive a stick shift in order to get her license, I'm not so sure she would have a license today.
Well, I don't know. She's a pretty driven young lady, but yes, she did get her license on a regular automatic vehicle.
Isn't it funny how today, and I learned to drive in a stick shift. I don't know if you
did
did too,
too,
Ben.
yeah.
Seth, did you drive in a stick shift or?
Yeah. I was actually a 1957 Chevy pickup, stepside, that you had the starter on the floor and granny gear.
Hey,
I don't know if you remember any of those
hey,
things.
Seth,
but
when you say that was a 1957 Chevy, it makes it sound like that was like a brand new car back then when you were driving. We know that you're a very young guy, and that was an antique when you were driving it.
Oh, in college, what year? It was a 1970 Bel Air. Avocado
yes,
green?
It was a 1970 Bel Air that I
The
bought
year I was
from
born. Nice. 1970.
I bought it from an 85-year-old gentleman. It had been parked for 3 years and it, under like a carport, and it was like this really dusty, oxidized, 70s green. I don't even know what the original color was, but that was an awesome car.
Yeah, so we all know that teaching someone how to drive, that can be difficult. So I remember sometimes I'd be in the car with my daughter. I'd be in the front seat, obviously, and she's learning how to drive here. She's getting her hours in. She needs to have 40 hours in, which we actually just achieved, before she's able to go and take the class and all that. So anyways, sometimes Ben would be calling me about this or that, and all I'm doing is I'm holding on tight to the handle beside me, and I'm wanting to hit the brakes or I'm wanting to speed up, and it's very, very hard to concentrate while you have your daughter driving, and it's kind of terrifying, as everyone out there in the audience knows, that when you're teaching someone how to drive and you're on a big highway or whatever. So sometimes there would be moments of just silence where I would not answer at all. And the interesting thing was that was certainly the case when Ben was calling me. However, sometimes I would be calling him about this or that, and I could tell what was going on the other end without him even saying anything, because I could kind of almost feel the fear coming through the phone. But anyway, I have to say congratulations to you, Ben, because your daughter was quite successful, passed the written test on the first time, passed the driver's test on the first time, and got her license. So tell me a little bit about that day, what that was like when that happened.
Okay. So shifting out of neutral, yeah, that's been an experience for me. So my daughter, I think everyone can relate with the DMV. I mean, I would rather be standing on the surface of the sun than in the DMV, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say I would choose not to relate with you on the DMV.
Oh,
no.
It is absolutely a nightmare. It is. There's no place worse to go.
Why is it so? Maybe an IRS office? I don't know.
You stand there, you get a number, and everyone's sitting there in misery, and all you can hear over the top of your head is the hum of those fluorescent lights, just bzzz, right over the top of your head, and you're like, and you're looking down at your, E192, and they're like A4, and
yeah, and you realize you have
right
another
now
hour
I'm
and a half in
thinking
front of you.
yeah. So you sit there, my daughter, she's all anxious and excited, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a nightmare. So she, we get her turn for her to go take her test, and she takes her test. She comes back out, 20, 30 minutes later, and she passed, and the lady calls us up, and this really nice lady, she calls us up, and she's like, congratulations, you passed your test. We got to schedule your driving portion of your test, and so well, that's not available for another 5 hours.
Oh no!
So anyways, we're like, we might as well go home and have lunch.
Same day service though.
Yeah, no, I was. You could schedule it a week out if you wanted to, but we're trying to get this thing done in a fluid amount of time. So we schedule, to come back at whatever it was, 2 or 3 o'clock, and we come back, and she goes for her driver's portion. She comes back and she passes, and we get up to the counter. Same lady too. We randomly get the same lady, and she prints out the license, and my daughter's holding it up in the air.
So proud.
Oh yeah, she's smiling ear to ear. I mean, she is just like on cloud nine, and she's holding it up, and I'm taking a picture and stuff like that. And I said, hey Cassidy, I said, when we get home, we're gonna have to frame that. And she goes, that's a great idea, Dad. I said, yeah, because you're never gonna use it. And the lady behind the desk, she starts laughing hysterically.
Hey, and if you get them laughing, that's a good thing.
She was
right?
laughing so
thing.
hard that everyone was looking at us like, what the heck is going on over here? That's so funny at the DMV of all places. And she's like, Dad, that's not funny at all. But I was thinking about myself. I'm like, I'm going to give this girl keys, and she's going to shift out of neutral. Are you kidding me? This is really very scary. So, but she has done well so far,
yes.
from what I know.
Yes.
So,
no accidents.
That
no
I
speeding
know
tickets.
of. Yes. So
yeah.
no speeding tickets that I've heard of. So, so that's
congratulations, Cassidy.
That's very good.
Way to go.
But
Way to go.
yeah. So, but shifting out of neutral, I think this is, this is a great concern, because this transition in life is so much more fearful, I think, than that experience I just described. And your precious child and all of those concerns around that, but taking a step out of the working environment, subjecting yourself to the fears of being retired and dependent on the work you've done already to get there, and then knowing in the back of your mind that 15, 20 years from now, if something should go wrong, that going back to work and kind of re-recovering maybe a mistake that was made is almost impossible. and shifting out of that neutral space of, just going to work every day and collecting the income and saving and contributing to retirement, all of those kind of winding gears that just move automatically on a day-to-day basis is a very difficult transition for a lot of people to make.
You're listening to Money on Tap, and if you're looking to sit down with an advisor, start making some of the right steps towards your financial goals, we welcome the opportunity to do that with you, and you can reach us at 855-226-8551. You can also email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And we've also mentioned our website at yourmoneyontap.com. To go back and have a listen to some of the past shows. You can handpick or select any of the topics that might be important for you to address. And financial literacy is definitely one of our goals that we have, and we struggle to hopefully make the information that we use on a regular basis palatable. Something that you can use on a daily basis or wherever that is appropriate for you to involve yourself. And so what we're going to be talking about today is this strategy, or well, we've got tactical, we've got strategy, we've got these other things that we're going to get into. But really, what happens, like in the process of turning into a retiree? Like, what phase are you at, and how can you transition yourself successfully into retirement, whatever that might be? And so we've got some interesting information to cover. And I think it's interesting that it is a topic that not a whole lot of people really want to bring to the table, like retirement and the planning process and what is it going to take to get where I want to go. At least that's definitely what the data supports, is that people are really not interested in having the conversation or really coming to the table and doing the work around this. And I think a lot of that happens to be kind of a mindset around, getting themselves into an office to sit down with a professional to go through the numbers and try to make sure that they're on course or getting into where they want to go.
Seth, it seems as we talk about this that if you were going to summarize this article, the fact is it seems like there's a lot of people out there that could use a jump start when it comes to the retirement. People just don't do that. In fact, it was really a surprising finding from the Wall Street Journal that people out there really have not put a whole lot of forethought into their retirement planning. And they're kind of, as Ben was talking about earlier, kind of sitting there in neutral and really not making progress when it comes to the goals. Yes, maybe they're putting some money aside, that type of thing, but they're really not making a lot of progress when it comes to their actual retirement planning. And if you take a look at the study, again, we're looking at folks that are from 50 years old to 64 years old. So pre-retirees and retirees. And it's interesting because when it comes to retirement planning, it may mean one thing for one set of people and maybe something else for those other sets of people. But it seems like a lot of people that we're talking to out there have really certainly delayed their retirement planning, and they really haven't really put a game plan together.
Well, one of the ways I can identify with this is certainly that it is it's a well-known fact that Seth Krussman needs to eat less and exercise more.
Buddy, you're looking good, though. You're looking good. You're looking good.
Hey, it's a work in progress, and I appreciate that. And I haven't pulled out all the stops, that's for sure, but I'm working at it. And, that's kind of the mentality. I mean, there's this kind of this mentality that it's painful. It's hard to, and it's scary to, or, whatever those fears might be that we address. And I think, one of the things that we can also bring to the table here is that, this is a journey. This is a project that you have an opportunity to invest in and to uncover and identify how you want to live your life. And I think how many times, we go on vacation or people are, talking about the missions trips that they're going to right now. I see a lot of that happening with Facebook friends and what their family. Gosh, a great friend of mine took his whole family on a missions trip to Guatemala this last year. And that looked like a tremendous adventure. And how much planning does it take to get that to happen? I mean, not only you and your entire the four of them to get there to Guatemala, but the work that they're doing and the rest of the group and the team that were involved in that kind of an activity. How much fun is that? I have no problem involving myself in, creating a plan around something like that. And if I can get my mindset to be thinking that way, like, wow, I am planning the largest vacation of my life. How much fun can that be? And I can't wait to sit down and talk to you about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these topics here that talk about the, the fear, the word is used by this author here to be daunting. That, to figure out what your wants and needs for retirement are, it's just it's a topic so large that it's just so overwhelming that you're daunted with fear over it. And then the second reason people put off planning is it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be a 20-page financial questionnaire or some sort of fear that they've built into some topic or conversation that they had at some gathering or get-together with somebody else about their planner that, we sat down, we did this huge data gathering piece and everything else, and it's an overwhelming factor and et cetera, and, and maybe they weren't successful in it. Maybe they didn't get the answers they needed, so it was just kind of this overwhelming wasted time even.
And there's certainly a vulnerability when it comes to planning. Sometimes people, they're putting everything out there. Maybe there's people out there in our listening audience, I'm sure there are, where people maybe feel they're a little behind the eight ball, or maybe they feel they're a lot behind the eight ball, and they feel that they are not on par with where they should be or where society's expectation of where they should be. We see all types. We see some people that come in extremely confident with their situation. Then you see other people that really don't really have a handle at all. So we work with both types, certainly.
Yeah,
and everything in between.
But I've just learned that there's always a starting line for everyone, and honestly, like I think to know that there's anyone sitting out there today, sitting there fearful of a hard job or a lot of work or something like that, it's not effortless, but it's not the fears that they're listing off in this article. And they're saying that this is one of the reasons why these are the reasons people put off actually
procrastinate,
sitting.
Right?
The procrastination reasons, not that they're actual truth. They're fears that they've lined up in their mind, like it's just going to be so much work and effort and this, that, and the other thing. The truth is there is effort, but at the end of the day, the resolve makes the entire process of even the everyday management of your assets and understanding what you do have so much easier. Like a gentleman we met with today. We went with a gentleman today, and he was, very on top of things in general, but he's like, I still have assets I know I have forgotten about right now. And I was like, just the simplification of us helping you manage your assets is going to never let anything get lost.
Putting everything on the same page. And it's hard for people to take those proactive steps. I remember when I first got into the business a long time ago, where we talk about some of the different roadblocks that got in people's way of actually planning a successful retirement or planning for whatever it may be. And some of those roadblocks would be taxes, you'd have inflation. But one of the main ones, Ben, was procrastination. Not putting a game plan in place, just thinking, okay, well, I'll do that next year, or that's something I know I need to do, but I'm just not going to do it. Because many times they're afraid to face that fear of what is it going to look like. And what I often talk to people about is, wouldn't you want to know right now rather than finding out in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 6 years that you're behind?
Well, I think, Seth, and I want you to comment on this too, because, is it that people fear like, and this is my assumption, because I just, in talking with people, the assumption that they haven't done enough in the amount of time that they've spent to do what they've done, and they're afraid it's like a notice of cancer, like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to work the next 20 years of your life. Like, they're fearful of some drastic, major hit to the ego or to the working piece of their life, or what that means. Like, are they going to hear some sort of catastrophe news and they didn't know about X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, it's just facing the difficulty.
And the truth is that, we've talked about the demographic shifts that are happening in America right now that are changing the way strategic investing should occur for people, and how all these different, pieces from the millennials to the baby boomers, and how that stuff has never happened for us before in the same way. And trying to utilize simplistic investing, robo-advisors, all of these pieces to just kind of like throw it to the wind and hope it works out kind of based on some historical formula. And the truth is that, if you don't understand the changing winds, the changing tides, and what's going on in this marketplace, you may be losing on the opportunity just to make it easier for you. Not that it wouldn't occur, but the ability to be even more successful at it.
And I'm going to say this too. If you think about our parents ages, all of our parents' ages. If you think about that, Social Security was around for them. And it actually, for my grandfather who put in just for a few years into Social Security, well, he was able to retire, stay successfully retired for many, many years. Didn't have a whole lot of savings, but he was able to do okay because he had a nice fixed guaranteed pension that took care of him. Now, did it take care of him as well as it did when it first started, when he first started in his retirement? No. But the fact is, there's a lot of folks out there right now, if they're not paying attention, may not realize that Social Security may not be around for them, certainly in the capacity that it is for people today, because we certainly have a problem. Well, you can reference our shows in the past about Social Security and what the crisis we have going on there. It may be that pensions are not going to be there for you as well as they were in the past. So really what it boils down to is really putting money aside for yourself for a future day.
Seth, you and I met with a gentleman, I would say, 6-8 months ago. We met with somebody out in Oregon together, and he was looking to catch up on retirement. And I don't know if you remember that breakfast we went to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about the excitement he had after we met, like the relief he felt, because he's like, I've gone through a divorce. I've had this happen. I've had that happen, and just different pieces, and just the so, I mean, so for so many people, depending on your circumstances, and if you're fearful that, hey, listen, there's nothing I can do and I'm so far behind, like, why bother calling you guys, or why bother doing this? It's,
or I know I'm going to call you and you're going to tell me, to put 20% of my, whatever my income is away
somewhere
above and beyond. Above and beyond what I can really do. And, give me some task that's completely unrealistic and unmanageable. That's the other fear too.
And the truth is that, sometimes, our advice just comes with basically some free oversight on saying, hey, you know what, this might be a better strategic way for you to invest the dollars you currently have. To have a better opportunity to see success inside the returns, and just go through why that exists. I mean, at the end of the day, some of what we do is not just about us, and it's about who we are as people and giving back a little bit. And I think that's not necessarily understood by a lot of people in our culture today. But the truth is that people need to be aware. There's not enough people taking advantage of the trends that are occurring in front of us that are so astronomically large that we haven't even really experienced the ebb and flows. We talked about some of the flash crashing that could occur just by the baby boomers and how they may move their assets. I mean, that's real stuff. But if you know that could potentially be an issue, it could also be a potential huge gain for you too. So those are things that you want to address. And I think just to jump into one of the other things, I'm going to just quote this piece out of the article. It just says, perhaps the most challenging aspect of retirement planning is that it mandates a shift in financial thinking from an asset-based accumulation strategy, relying on employment earnings and growth from investments, to an income strategy that focuses on reliable ways to make your money last. And I think, as we kind of go through the different fears that people face when they walk through the doors in pre-retirees and retirees, one of the things I've always noticed is that people think that switching from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase is like a light switch. And it's just not that way. And the healthiest way is never to be an on and off in anything. I mean, even in investments, we talk about dollar cost averaging. I mean, just going into the market slowly, that's not a light switch experience. Different mottos and cultural thinking says that light switching does not actually come into play into our retirement years. But yet, most people do that. We talked about a statistic. What was it, John? Seth, what was it, 4 or 5 weeks ago, that like over 80% of people never rebalance or reallocate their retirement plan or something?
Never even look at it.
Never even look at it.
Yeah.
Because
Set it and forget it and they're done.
Right, because they've been taught, because the financial advisor who's on that account doesn't want to get a phone call to talk to them about all the different funds. No. Just set it and forget it. I bet you there's a vast majority of our audience who's heard that term.
Hold, yep.
Buy and hold, set it and forget it. And the truth is they just don't want the phone call. They don't want the hassle of work. And it's sad to think that that's how we're left. And these people are then, they get to retirement and they're like, oh, well, I sat down in a seminar, like you talk about, it was at the workplace, it was in the lunchroom, the guy came in, he spent 10 minutes. He went through small, mid, large, whatever the story was, and he talked about allocations and what might be good and what might not be, and he helped us go through which boxes to check to actually accomplish any of those choices. I checked those boxes, and that's all I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times, guys, have we heard people come through the door and talk like that?
Mm-hmm.
And people are not getting the service and the help they really need, and that's where the phone call comes in.
You're listening to Money on Tap, and we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. Hi, my name is Seth Krussman, partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. One of the biggest concerns and largest expenses people face today is taxes. Without thoughtful planning, taxes can destroy future retirement dollars, eliminating the possibility of a timely retirement or dreams of what you want retirement to look like. If you're like most people, you're getting closer and closer to retirement, and you may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. Will my income be enough? Will rising taxes force me to give up my dreams? How does inflation factor into all of this? These are real concerns, and you're not alone. Putting a plan around your financial future is what we do. If you have questions when it comes to your financial security, and if you're looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group, 855-226-8551. It's time for you to start getting answers to your questions. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, Brayshaw Financial has offices across the country. We'd love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us. Call us at 855-226-8551. 855-226-8551.
Find out more about three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning with Ben Brayshaw, Seth Krussman, and John Ryder on their weekly radio program, Money on Tap. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group are independent of SagePoint Financial.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in three-dimensional investing. And you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You also can find us at yourmoneyontap.com or at Facebook. We love the interaction that we get from our audience and the feedback and the emails. And right now, if you have an idea or something that you're struggling with and a concept that you would like us to maybe approach on air or with you in person, either way is fine. We'd love to do that with you. And if you just email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And if we wind up rolling out a concept on whatever it is that your questions are, we will give you a hat or a T-shirt with the lovely Money on Tap emblem. Actually, if you haven't seen the shirts or the hats, they are slick. I love them. And so we have some folks out there right now running around with that gear, and we thank you for the input and we thank you for the feedback. Today we are talking about what stage you're in, and also some of the things that we're focusing on here is getting out of neutral. If you're in neutral, you haven't really been thinking about retirement, you really haven't been doing anything about that other than maybe just contributing to that 401k, or you have some ideas of what it might take or what you might be wanting to do to get closer to your goals. We're getting out of neutral today. We're at least going to get this in granny gear. If you're in my experience of growing up driving, that was the first gear that I got into, with a 57 Chevy pickup with a starter on the floor, hauling wood out of the back 40 for my parents. That's what it was. But we're gonna get this car on the road, get on track. And part of the process is just kind of understanding, where are you? Are you an accumulator? Are you a pre-retiree? What's going on and where you're at? Let's identify some of that, and let's make some changes today if we can.
Yeah, Seth, you're right on there. Reducing financial risk is a defining characteristic of the shift to retirement readiness, is what this article brings out. And I think that is one thing, that is a battle that we talk about with clients all the time. They don't want to give up the risk. They like it. It's gambling. And they get into it and they feel, oh, this is good.
They've seen those years where it goes up like crazy, and they like that a lot. And we
do that every day. I mean, we buy security assets, stocks, bonds, mutual fund, you name it, we buy securities all day long. There's nothing that stops us from doing that. But when you're 20 years old, we all know the story. Hey, you can wait it out. And these securities usually can wait it out. But that doesn't mean your retirement can. And that's what people really struggle with, is that shifting out of neutral and saying, hey, listen, I need to make some really sincere decisions about how my retirement looks and whether or not I'm really willing to take that. And here's an article here. So Kent Baker from American University, he's a professor there. He says, the pain you feel from losing is far greater than the reward you get from gaining. He talks about the loss of $1 has twice the emotional impact than $1 in gain.
I think we've seen that to bear. That's totally true. As I think about different clients I've worked with over the years, and Ben, I'm sure you're the same way with your practice, where people really love that nice rate of return. However, if it comes at a great risk to them, I'm not so comfortable with that.
It's funny. I've had people who have had, there's always like some oddball things that just kind of do significantly better than you ever expected. And that happens from time to time. And I remember having a conversation with somebody and saying, hey, that's just sarcastically, it was an extremely good rate of return on this one thing. And it was just joking around about it. I goes, that's pretty good. He goes, yeah, that's not bad. I go, excuse me, that's not bad. I was like, when have you done? And it's just like people don't have the same emotional connection to gain as they do to loss.
Think about many retirees that are out there that went through the Great Depression,
who
saw some great losses on their portfolios, and those people, could have been back in the late 30s. People alive today still have that mentality about more of a depression era, because they remember the pain of that loss.
Right.
They remember what it was like when they couldn't pay their mortgage. Their mortgage might have been $45, but they remember they couldn't pay that. They remember they had trouble putting food on the table for their kids. They remember that they had trouble getting back and forth to work. And the pain of that has never left them. And as a result, they're very scared and don't really want to invest. They're very happy with a CD rate. Hey, I don't care if I'm only getting 1% at the bank. At least I know I have it.
And as a demographic, they're by far the best savers that we have in our
and that in between
society.
And that in between side is constantly trying to beat that mentality until they don't lose again. And they're trying to. If you talk to people when they walk through the door, every time they're like, "Well, when it comes back, I'll sell it," or like they're not even clients. They're like, "Well, I own that stock, and I paid this much for it, and when it's worth that again, I'll do it." And be like, "Well, what happens if it's never worth that again? So you're never going to do anything about it?" You have to make decisions. You can make mistakes in your investments, and you have to know, and you have to get the advice so you're not emotionally attached. Someone who doesn't want to sell because that's where they haven't made enough, or they haven't achieved where they were at before, that's an emotional attachment, and that is not a healthy relationship with your investments. If that's where you're at, if you're saying that to yourself, listening to this, you're not in a good, healthy spot. You need somebody who can emotionally detach themselves and say, "Yeah, doesn't matter. That's not what you want to own. It's not within your objectives, and I don't like that company," or XYZ. A lot of things that we do go against the instincts that people would have, that people would say, like, I need to grow my assets. Well, maybe I need to take more risk. Well, talking about the demographics, maybe you don't need to take more risk. We've had that conversation, and if you haven't heard that show, listen to it, because honestly, what's happening in America, maybe it's against your instincts. I had a gentleman we were making good money, doing everything. He said, "Hey, I want to take more risk." I was like, "Well, yeah, I want to, I know we're doing really well, and we're fairly conservative, actually. I'm surprised about it. Maybe I should take more risk," because the anticipation that gain comes from risk is built into our mindset, and not necessarily the case right now. And understanding the game is sometimes more important than just living by some traditional rules that exist out there.
Guys, we often talk to clients and talk to them about the fact that perhaps there's even more potential to do better in something that's less risky.
Yeah.
And people don't really understand that. You always think, well, if I'm going to make a lot of money, I got to
take a lot of risk.
Take a lot of risk.
And we've got some really crazy things going on in our demographics this time around that are just changing the way you should be thinking about your investments, which is why we're primarily talking to people on the air a lot, is to try to get as much volume of that information out. There's so many people who need to know how to protect themselves and protect their assets. And sometimes taking more risk is by no means the direction to do it. And we're not just talking about we're not talking about, we have to go really conservative into annuities or fixed accounts or CDs. We're talking about maybe even some of the stocks that you own, just a strategy against the baby boomers or with the baby boomers, or a strategy to focus on where the millennials are spending their money, because these demographics are going to sway our economy in a way that we've never experienced before.
I do believe, Ben, there are a lot of people out there that are taking a lot more risk than they think they're taking. I have a wonderful client lives right near, not far from the office, and she has 100% of the money in her 401k all in company stock. And I've been talking to her for years and years and years about this. But the fact is, the stock that she has, the underlying stock, has actually done very, very well. But the fact is, here we are. It has enjoyed gains for many, many, many years. We don't know what's coming next. And so really what I spent some time with her, talking to her about was the fact that she really needs to look at diversifying herself of all those holdings. And, I'm really proud of her, because just a week or two ago, she made the decision that, I am going to do that. So she sold half of her holdings inside of her qualified plan and decided to diversify that among.
So she's only 50% allocated in company
and,
stock.
And you know what? That wasn't what I advised. I'd advise more, but sometimes it takes people some baby steps in order to go in the right direction.
Well, another advisor we work with too, he was telling me he has a guy who owns a company stock too. He was like 95% allocated in that stock. And I don't know, the stock went up 8 times the value. So the guy went from like not quite enough to retire to like amply able to retire. And he's still talking to the client about, he's like, listen, we've got this small account, but you've got this. If anything happens to that company, if they go down 10%, you lose 10% of your retirement basically. He's like, that's just way too much risk. Even if it's a conservative company, that's way too much risk. And so that's been a kind of a funny conversation. He comes into my office from time to time and be like, I don't know what to tell this guy. I have no idea. How do you tell him if it went up 800% that you should sell it? He's like, I'm telling him, He's like, well, it keeps going up. So he's like,
but Seth, isn't that where we are in the markets? We're talking about, it seems like every day we're hitting new highs. Now, we've had a little bit of a hiccup here lately in the market, but for the most part, we're seeing all of the major indices going up. And so it's very hard to get out of the mentality that we need to be perhaps moving out of them.
Yeah, and it's also going back to that risk kind of association where people kind of get used to, oh yeah, we should expect, 7% return or whatever that expectation is, and I want more. And so that risk, I want more. Whatever I'm getting isn't good enough. There's more out there. Grass is greener on the other side. There's all these thoughts around that, and that may not necessarily wind up being true. And the other thing I find is that a lot of the time with the risk side that people are associating is some real heavy activity in the market of buying and selling. And that's kind of the association that can go alongside of that. We're really having a much more strategic kind of an allocation and modifying that over time will certainly smooth out that ride potentially. But hey, here we are, Money on Tap. And you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And we are talking about what stage you're in. We're talking about getting out of neutral, wherever you're at, maybe identifying what stage you're in. Maybe you are a contributor. Maybe you're more in the accumulation phase or mobilization. But, identifying where you're at can really help to understand maybe that next step for you. And as far as the people that are in the survey, 529 of them, 50 plus, age 50 plus identified in these 4 stages, and 9%, only 9% identify as being contributors, what does that mean? Really that's kind of thinking or actively thinking or planning for retirement. And they're not likely to be making contributions to, they are likely to be making contributions to the IRAs or employee-sponsored plans, which typically everybody associates that as a 401k is kind of the most common out there among employee plans or employer plans. So 9%, that's you, might be contributing actively contributing in this demographic. And of the contributors, only 69, well, only, that's pretty significant. 70, basically call it 79% say growing savings is right now their most important objective. And 71% know that they should be minimizing portfolio risk, but are not ready to give up potential gains. And that's kind of what we're talking about here today, folks.
That's huge. That's huge. Now, this person, and John, you and I were talking about this as we were reading. When we first looked at this article, this was one of these 4 stages was the first thing that brought to mind. I really love this statistic. 70% of people in the pre-retirement stage know they have to reduce their risk. 70% of people know they need to reduce their risk.
Yeah,
but they're not ready to give
like
up those gains, though, right? They see it, they like those gains, just like the client I was talking about that lives close by the office. Just they don't want to give up those gains. Not that they're necessarily trading no gains, but they just don't want to give up what they've had in the past. They've seen that nice market run up.
But what's interesting about this, the contribution phase, there's 4 phases, right? So the contribution phase is the first phase. The mentality that I see the contribution person in is that this is not a focus. Retirement is not a focus yet, because 70% of these people, their objective is to save like into a savings account. Like they're saving for like...
They're not investing, they're saving.
They're
right?
saving because they don't have enough in case they lost a job or a health event occurred or whatever. They're not in... They're not even in accumulation yet. They're in stabilization.
And there's a lot of people out there like that.
And they're contributing. That's why there's a contribution phase. Well, I'm contributing. Like something's coming out of my 401k. I'm not even paying attention to it. I don't even have time to. I've got so many other priorities, but I am contributing. Check the box. I'm a contributor. That's this person right here. If you're sitting on the phone, if you're listening to this radio show and you're saying I'm a contribution person and you're a pre-retiree, this is something that you need somebody like us or somebody similar to us doing what we do, helping you convert that contribution story into a focus for them. If you can't focus on it, you need someone that will.
Ben, 50% of people out there have more credit card debt than they have savings. Think about that. 50% of people out there have more credit card debt than they have savings. So that may even involve a contributor. Someone's just putting some bucks away here and there. But the fact is that they don't have a game plan for going forward, and that's what we help people create.
And I think some people are fearful that they walk in the door, they're going to hear, oh, you have this credit card debt. Like, credit cards are a fact of life in this world. Like, if you think you're walking through the door and you're the first person to have a little bit of credit card debt,
right,
or even a lot of credit card debt, you're not going to be surprising any of us. Even if you do make great money and you have a lot in your 401k, or you do this or you do that or whatever, or you don't have anything in your none of that matters. Those are the types of fears that you just need to let push out of your mind, because
we work with it all the time.
They're not basis. There's no basis for them. The second phase, right, is the accumulation phase. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so accumulation phase is really where people are putting away. In fact, it says 26% of all pre-retirees and retirees surveyed self-identify as accumulators. 64% say making their money last will be a financial priority within the next 5 to 10 years. So these people are people that are just continually putting money away. And out of all those people that were surveyed, 68% of those people plan to work for as long as they can. And why is that? Why do they plan to work for as long as they can? Well, because they know perhaps they're not going to have enough savings in order to take care of themselves in the future.
You know, I have seen people walk in our door and say, well, you know, I don't know if I'm ever going to retire. I love what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. It's great, and this, that, and the other thing. And then after they sit down with us and we show them that they could actually be fully retired, they jump on it. It's no, seriously. I mean, people feel like it's almost like lying to yourself a little bit. Now, you know, we meet a lot of people. You know, I've heard the story. You know, biblically, retirement. It's not biblical to be retired.
Right.
You know, all that stuff. I'm fine with that. Like, I totally would actually probably say I don't see any of that in the Bible, which is fine. What I would say is that I don't think that you necessarily need to be married to the type of, you know, physical cash employment you were beforehand, when you might have an opportunity to do something else for either less money or this, that, the other thing, and allow your retirement funds to supplement or even pay for your ability to I meet people all the time that go on full-time missions. Like they're just constantly. I have one client who retired early, and he is constantly with Samaritans, just running here, running there, doing all sorts of stuff. And he loves it.
He has the time to do it. He has the resources to do it, and he loves it.
Yeah.
It's so much better than saying, because we always talk with people about, you want to retire to something, not from something. So many people are out there, they're retiring from that daily 9 to 5 grind. But what they're not doing necessarily is they're not retiring to something. So if you are retiring and you're sitting on the couch or just playing golf, that type of thing, you know what? You want to retire to something. Find a passion for what you're going to do in your retirement.
You're listening to Money on Tap. We're going to take a quick break and be right back. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
On this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, John Ryder and Ben Brayshaw discuss some of the pitfalls that come with poor financial planning in retirement and the necessity for a healthy strategy to make the most of your money in your later years.
I have $500,000 for my retirement, but I really want to drive a Maserati.
In which I need to pay cash for most of the time. I mean, I have seen so many different people blow it early. They have these things that they feel like they need to do, and, they're going to just lump sum cash out. I mean, I've seen where people get very afraid about retirement and all the expenses. I worked with one person one time in which they wanted to put 3 years worth of expenses in cash. I mean, we might have even been 4. And I remember sitting next to one of the other planners there, and it was like, and the expenses were 4 years worth of taxes. I was like, well, if you can't create enough income to cover your current expenses that you're so afraid you got to put 4 years away, you're really not planning for retirement. You're planning for a period of time.
I think a lot of retirees fall into the trap of overdoing it right after they stop working. So they have more free time, but maybe less discretionary income than they've ever had before. So it can also have some pretty major repercussions on a retirement plan. So one of the biggest risks that you face after you retire is called the sequence of returns risk. So it basically says that if you have a big hit to your finances, you'll have a greater impact earlier in your retirement plan. So if you lose a lot of money early on in your retirement plan, that can really wreak havoc for funding your retirement later on.
Well, I think the big issue there is the ability to reclaim those assets. In other words, going back to work. If you spend the first 5 years spending down your assets, and let's say you retire at 65, 70, it's harder to go back to work. It's harder to find a job. And then we always talk about if you have the first 5 years of retirement being down years in the market, that's a whole nother issue. So you got this compounded loss. So you're drawing more money out. The market might be going down. And then how do you rebuild that asset? And again, people are living longer. You don't know how long you're going to need that money for.
Find out more about three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning with Ben Brayshaw, Seth Krussman, and John Ryder on their weekly radio program, Money on Tap.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal financial headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And quick reminder, folks, if you are emailing us at info@yourmoneyontap.com or giving us a call and you have a show idea that you'd like us to present, we'd love to work with you on that. And also, we'd love to give you a hat or a T-shirt for that idea that we can bring to the table. You can also find us at Facebook and also online. We are at www.yourmoneyontap.com. So we're talking about what stages you're in right now. We've been working through getting out of neutral in your retirement planning and really not doing a whole lot or needing to get somewhere and get focused. Well, what part of that might be identifying where you're at. And if you're over the age of 50 to 65 in that demographic, you might be either accumulation phase. We just kind of talked about that, as well as contribution phase. But 36% of people that are age 50 to 65 in the survey identify as mobilization. And what does that mean? If you're in a mobilization mindset, you are shifting from a growth strategy to a protection strategy, which is focused on preserving savings and figuring out how to make your money last.
This is a major shift right here. When you
From
go
accumulation.
When you go contribution accumulation to mobilized, When you're mobilized, you're a person who knows what you want. Like, you know what you want, you know what you need. You've sat down, your husband, wife, whatever you significant other, whatever your scenario is, you have evaluated what the future means to you. And I think this points it out. It's like 83% have calculated the income they'll need in retirement.
They're thinking. They're planning.
They're ready.
There's foresight. Yep.
These are the people, 9 out of 10 times people walk through our door are the mobilizers. They've been, the box has been checked. The boss at work was a jerk. Something occurred. No, I'm serious. Something has occurred 9 out of 10 times. Are you guys have something different? Because I mean, usually when we talk to somebody,
it's so true. That's why I laughed.
Something has triggered.
Right.
Hey, I'm ready. I need to take some action now because I need to be prepared for that day because I do see it on the windowsill. Right. 67% believe market volatility will affect their retirement finances in the next 5 to 10 years. They are now mobilized to take less risk.
Don't forget that was in 2017 that this was done where the markets were hitting all new highs. Of course, 67% believe. And I don't know what's going on with the other 33%, but of course market volatility is going to have a major impact.
I think that may have already mobilized, I think is what that other 33% may be. And they've kind of figured out, hey, I've got this income stream that is going to be coming from XYZ sources, and they've already identified potentially what that might look like. And then the other 70% here continually adjust their portfolios to minimize risk.
Yeah, people walk in the door and they say, hey, I need $100,000 to live off in retirement. And I figured between my pensions and Social Security, my wife taking Social Security early, I got $64,000. I need you to figure out how to make up the difference. And I just want it as a paycheck. And I want it, and I want to try to preserve as much or all of my money. And that person is ready. They are ready. And the sad thing is, like, most of the time, if they had come to us in the contribution stage or the accumulation stage, whatever, $100,000 that they wanted versus it wouldn't even be a question. They would already have those answers, and it might even be a larger number, and usually would be. So I mean, it's like if we could just get people to mobilize now, to exercise now, the amplification they will see in their retirement will be huge.
So now we come to the fourth stage, which is called remuneration. Now that's a big word. I'm not so sure I can even say that 5 times fast, but remuneration during that stage.
That just feels weird. That's one of those words.
Who made that up? Seth, did you do that?
Probably.
I can't believe that 95% of people 65 plus self-identified as being in this stage when we don't ever use that word.
Well, the stage, yeah. Whatever that stage is, yeah. But it says during this stage, people are likely to be partially or fully retired. For the most part, their retirement plans are in place, but nonetheless, they still may be adjusting those plans as the economy and their personal situations change. They depend on some reliable income to fund their retirement, such as annuities, pensions, Social Security, as well as other assets such as retirement accounts and investments. But yeah, interestingly enough, 95% of people 65 plus identify as being in this stage, self-identify as being in this stage. 85% have strategized to make their money last throughout their lifetime. So those people have done some definite proactive planning.
I would wager that this survey was in writing and they were checking boxes, because I don't think 95% of these people walked up and said, hey, what stage were you in? Oh, I'm in the remuneration
Definitely
stage.
Remuneration.
Definitely
Yes.
remuneration.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Did that just come off the top of your head? Yeah, that's just the stage I think of myself in.
In this stage, though, in this stage 4, 67% of people out there in this remuneration stage are using pension-like income streams. So as people have pension-like income streams coming in from former employers, maybe they've set up a pension on their IRA, their 401k.
Social Security.
Exactly. 43% are still making plans for the retirement they want. And we find this very true. When we see people, when we are sitting down with people always want to have something going, and we're finding many times too that people that have saved throughout their lives, even in their retirement, once they've retired and they've turned on income streams, guess what they're still doing? They're saving money.
We're glad you joined us today, visiting some of these stages of retirement, wherever you might be at, and identifying those so that you can maybe take a look at where you're at and getting out of neutral, taking some time to focus on putting a plan in place for yourself that's going to really help you get where you want to go. You've been listening to Money on Tap. We appreciate you. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. Thanks again, you guys. What a great time.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.